And thank you ever so much for joining us this morning. We've got some fantastic content for you that I hope you're going to really enjoy and benefit from. It's an incredibly interesting time that we're living through at the moment, but despite everything that's going on around us, there is an incredible opportunity to increase the efficiency of our businesses, our e-commerce businesses and travel businesses, with effective collaboration inside of the teams in our businesses. And I'm joined today by a fantastic partner of ours, Lisa Bowden, who's Head of Business Development from Retail Assist. Lisa.
Good morning.
Would you like to just give us a quick intro, Lisa?
So I'm Lisa Bowden. I head up business development for the solutions area of Retail Assist. I'll go through a bit more about what Retail Assist do and our areas of focus when we pass over to my presentation. But 24 years of solutions and software experience. Hopefully we'll start to understand a bit more about what we can bring to the party.
Fantastic. Well, look, Lisa, thanks ever so much for joining. It's great to have you here. For those of you that don't know me, my name's Eddie Swindell. I'm the Chief Revenue Officer and co-founder of Fresh Relevance. As with Lisa, I've been in the industry for quite some time and had the privilege of working with really some of the biggest e-commerce brands and travel brands in the UK and Europe and further afield as well too. So like I say, we've got some fantastic content for you. One of the constructive bits of criticism that I often get from these sessions is that they're not nearly salesy enough. We end up providing so much content that can be really, really valuable, but not saying enough about Fresh Relevance. And so I don't really want to get that kind of feedback from this session. So I'm just going to give you a really small number of slides talking a bit about who we are and what we do, and then we'll jump into the meat of the presentation. So Fresh Relevance is a real-time personalization and optimization platform. It's incredibly feature-rich and very, very agile and easy to set up. How it works is through front-end script, we collect a ton of real-time data and content as people interact with your websites. On top of all that data and content that we collect, we provide a whole range of tools that would typically sit in a range of different platforms that provide different types of artificial intelligence and machine learning, as well as a whole range of content tools and targeting, testing and optimization tools to personalize the customer experience across different channels. The functionality inside Fresh Relevance typically sits inside of these main buckets, and that's website personalization, email personalization, behavioral triggers, as well as these other areas such as social proof. And social proof is the concept of people being influenced based on the actions of others. Other areas include behavioral targeting. This is the ability to target people in a plethora of different ways based on their real-time behavior on your websites. The fire hose and data integration are areas where we seamlessly integrate with other tools in your ecosystem, including platforms like Retail Assist. The platform that is Fresh Relevance has been designed to integrate with your other systems, irrespective of what they are. Now, this may be your email service provider, your e-commerce platform, your user-generated content tools, such as your ratings and reviews tools, and your social media platforms if you disseminate content via social media channels. Lisa's going to say a little bit more about Retail Assist in a second, but in terms of the integration with Retail Assist, it's incredibly interesting. All of the data that Fresh Relevance collects, all the granular behavioral and transactional data, including information on what products are browsed together in the same session or purchased together, can be passed to Retail Assist to provide this very clear, complete view of how products might relate to each other. Conversely, the product orientated content that Fresh Relevance collects can be really deeply enriched from the data from Retail Assist, and that includes very detailed product attributes. For example, if it's an e-commerce clothing store, what kind of length the hem is, what kind of collar style, the materials that are used to construct a product. And so when we tie these two things together, merchandising and related teams can benefit from all of the related product data. And marketing and e-commerce people can benefit from the type of very, very detailed product data that would typically sit inside of a product information management system. And we're going to go through this in a lot more detail. So why are we here? Why are we even talking about increasing efficiency through collaboration? Well, in a nutshell, the fact is that we are all operating in an incredibly competitive environment, a challenging environment. And that was so even before the latest COVID-19 situation, including the current lockdown that we find ourselves in. And by that I mean increasing number of searches are starting on Amazon. Our data tells us that over half of searches for products online start off on marketplaces, with the majority of which being on Amazon. Now, as well as this, current challenges include team members are, in many companies are still on furlough. The teams are smaller. Many companies need to actually be doing more with less. Not only that, but the current situation is changing so rapidly. Everyone needs this incredible agility to be able to keep up with the current situation and communicate with customers and prospects appropriately. The market conditions that we find ourselves in now have changed massively, and there are a number of different ways that we can dissect the market conditions. And if we just look at three high-level areas, we can look at the economy, we can look at the organization, and we can look at the consumer. So let's just walk through these really quickly to paint the scene. So the economy, GDP continues to drop. Here we look at the Q2 GDP growth quarter on quarter for last quarter, Q2. And you can see every major economy is down, with the exception of China, ironically, and I won't go into that. But the economic outlook is not particularly rosy right now, obviously. The patterns of behaviour inside of our consumers have changed and continue to change. And just these figures from July and August show a huge increase in the amount of online shopping as a proportion of all retail that consumers are currently doing. And of course, as we currently go into the second lockdown just ahead of the festive period, this is likely to change even more dramatically. Apparently, Christmas is online this year. In terms of the organization, just to share some stats with you from a survey in Marketing Week and also from eConsultancy earlier in the summer this year, you're not alone if your company has changed course slightly or has made some changes. 90% of the companies interviewed have delayed or reviewed their budget commitments in the current situation. 85% have paused new hires, and 81% have suspended tech infrastructure or infrastructure spend. And this has a massive impact on the teams inside the business. Generally speaking, teams are smaller. There have been and there will be more redundancies. The furlough scheme has been extended. Companies have to do more with less, and budgets need to work much harder. So inside of all this negativity, actually, we do have to stay positive, and in many respects, every cloud does have a silver lining, and there is now this incredible opportunity to drive efficiency through team collaboration. What we actually find is, many people that we speak to, often when it comes to implementing brand new tactics and strategies, often say they're so busy doing their day job they often don't have time to consider anything new, even though they may see a huge benefit in adding some of these new tactics to their marketing or e-commerce arsenal. And in some cases, to make a significant change, things do have to stop. I mean, to use a crude example of a production line, to really change what's being produced on that production line has to stop. And so now, amid all of this rapidly changing environment and slight chaos, there's an incredible opportunity to do the things that we've been wanting to do for a while and drive efficiency between teams with better collaboration, that we've all known could be possible for a long time, but we maybe just not got around to, haven't got around to to do that yet. So when we talk about teams, they're often different silos in different companies, but just to look at 5 sort of fairly well trodden silos or or understood divisions of teams. Let's just talk briefly about the challenges that they've got working together, and therefore what they could be doing more of to drive efficiency through collaboration. Just to mention a few examples, marketing and acquisition and e-commerce, typically these roles, especially when the acquisition is all online, there's a huge amount of opportunity to work together, but it just so often just doesn't happen. The head of e-commerce is usually more focused on the conversion rates of the website and decreasing bounce rates, whereas marketing, and especially acquisition marketing, are looking at specific types of customers or profile. They're looking at driving net new customers or increasing loyal customers. Whereas CRM might be taking a much longer view on customer lifetime value. Say if we look at that and how that relates to testing and optimization. Testing and optimization is often very guilty of taking a much shorter term view. What's driving conversions now in this session? But how does that relate to CRM and marketing? Well, it's fine to look at conversions now, but the type of customers that are converting, are they the type of customer that's going to continue a relationship with your brand into the foreseeable future? The conversions that we're seeing, how do they align with the marketing strategy and the types of customers that marketing are really trying to speak to and attract to achieve their various marketing goals? And bringing merchandising into the equation as well too. Also often personalization is deployed on a website to drive short-term conversion. But how does that align with merchandising objectives? What's important to the merchandising team, and how can these factors actually be surfaced so that they can be congruent and aligned with goals of other key team members? So to answer these questions, we've got a couple of different ways of looking at this. The first way is to actually break this down into specific tactics. And there are many tactics that can be deployed on an e-commerce website that all of these different teams should have an interest in. So let's look at one key tactic and just discuss a few ways that different team members should be thinking about that different tactic. And in this case, we're going to look at product recommendations. So product recommendations are more typically deployed through an e-commerce function. They may even be seen as being part of the infrastructure of the website. However, marketing and acquisition should really be interested in the type of product recommendations and how they're working. If the marketeer is focused on customer acquisition, actually, how can those product recommendations be used and optimized for net new customers? Alongside the normal types of product recommendations people like you or purchase together, there are a plethora of different product recommendations that can appeal to the goal or help to achieve the goal of acquisition. For example, trending products, hot products, things that have been recently added, best reviewed, the types of things that draw attention to what's really hot or trending on the website at that particular moment in time. Product recommendations can be based not just on the product that someone's looking at, but where that person may have come from. It's very useful to look at the referring source, especially if that source is really obvious. For example, it may be that somebody has landed on the website from a social media ad. It may be a recommendation from a particular social influencer. And so we can make a lot of assumptions about what that customer is like and what they may be interested in from that referring source. Now, product recommendations have been proven to benefit online conversion and enrich customer experience in many ways. But a big question here for marketing and acquisition is how well do those product recommendations work to achieve their specific marketing objectives? It's not just about conversions online, but it's conversions inside of the kind of segmentation or customer profiles the marketer is trying to attract. Now, head of e-commerce is typically where product recommendations sit, but also often head of e-commerce may not actually be aware of or have the tools or insight to evaluate the success of product recommendations in line with the marketing goals. It's really important to actually look at the conversions overall, in line with those marketing segments, and actually also understand the long-term value of the conversions that are coming from specific types of product recommendations. With regards to product recs, merchandising, and we'll touch on this in a lot more detail in Lisa's side of the presentation, but merchandising really needs to work well with all of these other teams. Questions that they should be asking inside of the product recommendations: how can the products be elevated or prioritized to achieve their merchandising objectives? Recommendation systems often rely on AI or machine learning, but for merchandising to really have some impact or influence or interest in product recommendations, there really needs to be an element of manual override so that these products can be surfaced and weighted appropriately. Now, CRM and testing and optimization also should have a really keen interest in product recommendations. CRM will always have a longer term view. Product recommendations really are not just about driving conversions on the website in that session, but it's really about the type of conversions that they're driving and the lifetime value of the shoppers that are actually being converted as a result of these product recommendations. The recommendations need not just be based on the current activity or the real-time activity, and can absolutely be based on historic transactions or specific loyalty segments that CRM may have identified. And just to reiterate, the testing and optimization, I said previously, but often the view taken by testing and optimization can be incredibly short-term. But we would really, really encourage any view on testing and optimization to encompass the view of all of these other team members, so that the results of the tests are cognizant of everyone else's goals, including the effectiveness of driving conversions for specific segments that marketing are interested in. Also, for achieving merchandising objectives with driving the conversions on the products that merchandising need to elevate, and also really reporting on the CRM dimension, the longer term view of the customers that are converting through the tests that testing and optimization may be deploying. So that's a really interesting way to look at how the teams can be collaborating, and that is tactic by tactic, the type of activity by the type of activity. But there are other ways of doing this as well too. And to take a slightly broader view, I'm going to introduce to you what we call our personalization strategy framework. Now, this is typically a framework that we use with customers when we're speaking to them initially and when we start working together, where they ask questions almost all the time, like, this is great, but where do I start? What kind of personalization should I deploy to achieve the best results? Because there are so many different options out there. And a lot of the tactics that we speak to clients about are innovative, they are new. So it's very helpful to actually have a framework to understand what tactics should be used to deploy to achieve specific goals. Now, what we've done with this framework is use two different models that people know and love. Firstly, it's the customer journey. And secondly, it's the idea of understanding your customers, or profiling your customers, or personifying your customers to identify different groups to target. So firstly, talking about the customer journey. Here we can see a typical customer journey map. And on the y-axis, we've got different dimensions of that journey map, which looks at both the custom activities and goals, but also the business goals and the KPIs to evaluate the success of the activities to achieve those business goals. The bit in orange is what people tend to think about, and that is the touch points throughout the customer journey. Now, on the x-axis, you can see different stages or different consideration stages of a transaction. And we find it really, really useful to actually look at the customer journey in that context, rather than just the journey through the website. Because we find in doing so, if we look at these different consideration stages, it actually makes the model incredibly universal across different teams and also across different types of companies, even different industry sectors. So that's the customer journey. And if we look at the personification and profiling, what we actually do for this particular exercise, and that is looking at team collaboration, is we swap out this axis of the model to look at different team members or different silos inside a company. So if we then mash these together, we can see the customer journey or the different consideration stages with a couple of different roles. And here I've just picked two key roles, and that's one of marketing and e-commerce. And I'm just going to walk through a few different examples of different tactics and how these different teams or roles should be thinking about tactics inside of these consideration stages as the customer or prospects progresses through the journey. So, for example, if we look at the awareness stage, so this is a client that's just become aware of your brand or aware of products that your brand is selling. From a marketing perspective, if we look at acquisition, then some of the key tactics here are data capture. So we want to really drive identification of the shopper when they first land on the website. Before we even know anything about them, let's capture their details. In terms of e-commerce, that data capture needs to be refined to balance customer experience with the marketing goals of acquisition. And the way to do that is through really, really accurate targeting and testing of that targeting. So the data capture initiatives are actually adding something to the customer experience. For example, this product is out of stock. If you give me your email address, we will let you know when this product comes back in stock again. Something that's incredibly useful that can align both the marketing objectives with customer experience objectives that sit underneath e-commerce. In terms of consideration, if we look at behavioral triggers, so someone is looking at a product, they abandon the website, different communications can actually be initiated in real time, browse abandonment triggers to that shopper. Now, in terms of e-commerce, there's a very, very clear collaboration required here, because even though the email can typically sit underneath marketing, the behavior that's initiated that email is real-time online behavior on the e-commerce website. And so both teams really need to join forces here to understand this as being a key part of the customer journey. It's almost like interacting with the web page off the website, and all of the personalization tactics that can be deployed on the website can be deployed in these triggered emails as well too. For example, relevant personalization based on browse behavior, recommendations in the behavioral triggers based on the customer profile and what they have actually been doing on the website. If we move along to the next stage here, in terms of the consideration stage, decision and transaction, here there are very different goals here for both team, again, that can join forces to really, really optimize the conversions on the website. The upselling of product should be really done in with an understanding of the customer segments that marketing is attempting to address. And this can include, from the e-commerce perspective, the personalized bundling of products based on the understanding or the segment ownership of a particular individual. When we look at the another type of a data capture at this stage of the transaction process, what we call exit intent data capture, this should also be targeted based on what we know about the individual and based on their behaviors online. For example, if we know that somebody has been interacting with particular sale products and they may be price sensitive, then the messaging in the exit intent data capture can be aligned with that kind of characteristic or that profile of shopper. Finally, moving on to loyalty and advocacy, this is again a stage where all of these key roles should be interested in terms of marketing and e-commerce. If we look at some of the tools that are used to drive loyalty and advocacy, ratings and reviews platforms, and these include both product and service level reviews. Marketing is often involved in the driving of these reviews post-sale. The sourcing and implementation of these tools usually sit in the infrastructure or e-commerce team. Now, the type of the type of marketing message that should go to customers post-sale to drive this user-generated content can change by profile, which would almost certainly sit inside of marketing. For example, if somebody is a loyal customer and they've made a transaction, they obviously had a very positive experience of your brand. And so the messaging should be more aligned with driving the service or store level review. People that have transacted maybe for the first or second time, the type of user generated content or review request may be focused more on a product level. So just moving on, just to wrap up this part of the presentation, it's we've talked in quite some detail about the different roles inside of organizations and how they can be collaborating or view collaboration in terms of specific tactics or inside of that personalization strategy framework. And we've talked in detail about how marketing and e-commerce can work together in the context of that strategy framework. One area that is often massively overlooked is how merchandising fits into this and the collaboration opportunities that exist to really pull merchandising and the tools and data that exist in the merchandising team into the much broader customer experience. And I talk about customer experience, but I'm going to hand over to Lisa now to talk specifically about one dimension of this customer experience, which really focuses on the understanding of product inside an organization and how we can really zoom into that customer experience in the context of the product experience itself.
Great, thanks, Eddie. So what I'll do now is let me share my presentation seamlessly with you. Okay, thanks. So, I mean, what Eddie said there is, completely relevant to today's market, and I want to carry on with some of those themes, and we could talk about the challenges that we all face now, and how that's all affecting us in this area. But I want to focus more on a positive note. And as we move to expanding our trade more to online retail, is how we use product experience and how that can significantly drive additional revenue, how it can drive down costs with internal efficiencies, and as we start to recognise more how online shopping will continue to increase. In fact, Christmas shopping is practically going to be online now anyway. It's how we seize that opportunity. So I'll do a bit more of an introduction. For those of you that don't know, Retail Assist are a UK-based managed service and software provider. We focus specifically in retail and hospitality. And just some of the logos that you can see on this slide here, we're delighted to be able to provide software solutions and support to. As I said, I'm Lisa Bowden. I'm the head of business development for solutions for quite a long time now. I have been pretty passionate about software technology and solutions, particularly how they drive revenue and improve profit, as well as the operational efficiencies that they can give you and streamline those processes. Within Retail Assist, our key areas are business solutions, which I head up, managed services, and 24-hour support. Our solutions business is software that's exclusively built for retailers. It centres around merchandise management, omni-channel, and now digital retailing. Our managed services ensures that our people, systems, and your businesses trade optimally, and the support delivers around the clock help desk services worldwide, and that has extensive multilingual capability. But today we're going to focus on the relevant part of our software portfolio, which is Omio PIM. And this further addresses that team collaboration and efficiencies that we've been talking about. And it shows how demonstrating how having a unified product information experience with the right technology allows you to produce multiple customer experiences and make them relevant to all of those different selling channels. We want to see retailers' profits grow. It's even more important now than ever, and reduce markdowns and shrink their inventory backlog. So getting your product present across a global marketplace is now incredibly important. So any stats surrounding the rise of online retailing and the fierce competition market that we're all in now, it's even more important to get the right product out in front of the customer at the right time and in the right context. Even M&S are no longer running their traditional Christmas clothing advert, and they've switched all their focus onto food, because at the moment and at this point in time, it's more relevant and revenue generating for them to switch focus on the things that are going to provide better sales. Now, the product, or the SKU, as it's called, is the unique key that links all of the entire organisation together. We probably don't think of it in that way, but so we continue to work in these silos around products, and that's quite inefficient. So for simplicity, what I'm going to do is segment some of those areas that I think that we need to address. So for businesses to thrive, they need wider digital exposure. It's not about just a website or an app. They need to be able to place those products into multiple selling places or channels or marketplaces, however you refer to them. Now, customers are more informed. Even our parents are more savvy than ever at purchasing online. They're able to find the same product in different places, finding the best deal at the best price with the quickest delivery, something that I never thought would happen in my lifetime anyway. But pushing the same content out to all of these different marketplaces just simply doesn't work. The content's got to be tailored for the audiences that use the different channels. And this is where we start to move from traditional master data management into product experience management. I'll refer to that as PXM. It simply means that by using relevant language, expressions, descriptions, digital assets, you create a veneer around the same core item. And that helps to make an emotional connection with your audience. And altering the way that you present a product helps then engage those different audiences in different demographics and in different countries. So if you think about what sparks your interest in a product online, you're probably able to see it across many different channels, but which is the site that then you feel most drawn to? Is it because they have better imagery? Is it a video? Is it a more detailed description, information on how to wear the item, what to wear it with? It could be more details around sizing information. If you get that right, then you then end up having brand loyalty, because they know that the customer knows that if they order a particular size, it's always going to fit. So the translation of that key information helps to present the product in so many different ways, and that helps to spark the interest in the consumer. And you want your product to be able to stand out amongst all of the others. Businesses have got incredible cost pressures now. Colleagues are remote, but we still need to be able to make them feel part of the team, encouraging collaboration. And the traditional models of teams of people sitting in offices with hundreds of active spreadsheets, macros corrupting, single access issues, just simply isn't going to work. We all know that spreadsheets are prone to containing these mistakes, and if they're not caught, they end up then on websites or selling channels, and they can contribute to a lost sale, or worse, incurring the cost of processing a returned item. So wouldn't it be great if we could link all of those departments and data and understand why products aren't selling, being returned, or have low click-through rates? And using data at this level means that you're able to learn quickly. You can amend attributes, you can amend your content dynamically, which means that you can immediately start to influence the outcome of your products that are online. Using big data, it allows you to concentrate the right amount of effort on the right items that create the most profit, rather than blanketly having effort across, a whole range of items that, may have a low sell-through. All of this drives efficiencies, and within those working teams, if they have a single system that pulls all of these elements together, well, that's where Retail Assist come in. So what is a PIM solution, and what's that all about? Well, it's really simple. Legacy systems, disparate processes, reliance on low data accuracy and no workflow. All of that are hurdles that affect getting your product to market quickly. You need a central, accurate product creation system that has extensive attribution, and that creates that backbone, so you know that you're dealing with data that you trust. It drives the speed that products can be created, and it also helps to be able to have product ranges out to the digital market, but without the complexity of the processes that we are currently seeing. Seamlessly creating individual electronic files of all of the different ranges with all of the different veneers need to be sent out to those multiple selling markets. So that makes that whole process much quicker, smarter, and more dynamic. With implementation times with as little as 12 weeks and a return on investment that is within 6 months, it's probably the only new product that retailers really should be investing now, because the pressure to provide a great product experience is high. And if you deliver it, you'll see that that's translated in loyalty and repeated buying behaviour. Or better still, you may even be able to capitalise on the latest phenomenon that is nighttime impulse buying. And certainly that's where I fall into the market. So with roles underpinning workflow, we need to minimise the traditional complex processes of building a product experience. Teams that manage and create content have large amounts of information that can be really overwhelming and error-ridden. But with a central system with data choices that are closely managed, it starts to eradicate the mistypes that retailers often suffer from. Multiple teams that have simultaneous working patterns for product enrichment, it helps expand and enhance the product. So that allows you to have the different experiences and portray a different image for every selling channel. And it also makes it available so it's pertinent to the market that you're targeting. You can link those assets that are particularly attractive within different geographies, for example. But the level of simultaneous work processes is something that you simply can't do with a spreadsheet. And this collaboration is all about building PXM. So workflow provides the structure and the efficiencies that we need to deliver. We have automatic task progression, which helps to guide users to complete the tasks that they're responsible for. We display user alerts and task queues, and clearly display those activities that are assigned to the individual role or the actual individual. And then this structure underpins how you make all of the cost savings that increase productivity. It's impossible to make duplications, which retailers always suffer from. You can't make incorrect spellings or have missing data, because all of these are based on validated data that you select from, and missing data is captured when you go through an approval process. All of those items are really off-putting to customers, and they definitely have a negative effect on SEO rankings. So we're able to identify, stop, and rectify before data is published. So let's recap. The challenge is getting engaging content into the right channel at the right time with the relevant tailored content. And even before COVID, the Global Customer Survey report in 2019 suggested that investing in customer experience should be the key priority to the business. They must have known at that point in time. But with the relevant connections, you can invoke an emotional response which encourages somebody to buy. And as you can see here, there's many different components that help that interest. They all that range from how a material feels to tone of voice to whether they've been seen on a celebrity, and also it's the translation and the linguistics that have to be applied to those different channels that can make all of the difference. So we provide channel templates that will automatically translate key information, and that's essential for going into different geographies because key items and key phrases are referred to differently. So if you keep all of those components in mind and the factors that bring your product to life, make it jump off the screen and into somebody's online basket, what I'd like to do is show you a couple of examples of where this is done well and not so well. So this is our first example, and it's basic, but I'm afraid to say it's a really typical example. I can't say much about this really because the sum total of the information that is available is actually shown on the screen here. There's no real product information that you couldn't identify yourself by looking at the photo. There's no incentive to buy, and that really makes that transaction well, it's an activity that's transactional. There's no experience around it, and it's really a missed opportunity. But I think that really only starts to come to life when I show you the next example with the much better content. Now, as I think you probably agree, this is great. The imagery is great. It has video content. It's got loads more description. It's really engaging copy for the demographic that this product is moving out to. It shows you the items that you can buy with it. It also, in some of instances, will show you that it will go well with items that you already purchase. So that also links into sustainability, which is obviously really key. I think the only thing that I could possibly suggest as an improvement here is that you may want to wear a jumper, particularly at this point in time. But the key is I've searched here for Calvin Klein leggings. It's an exact search, and that's what I want to be displayed. Now, that type of search is referred to as a high intent purchase because the consumer already knows what they want: black Calvin Klein leggings. So for each example here, you would get exactly the same price and exactly the same delivery timescale, and it's exactly the same product. But look at the difference that this has made by using great quality data. It's far more engaging, and it moves from having that transactional exchange to a product having an experience through the product and the brand. And I'd certainly come back, probably normally when I'm shopping secretly at night at it again. So unfortunately for some retailers, someone has the unrewarding and time-consuming task of setting up channels. It's the same product information typed manually over and over again. And then what we need to do is ensure that the versions of the files contain different products, depending on the channel or the demographic that it's going out to, but it captures all of the information that that channel needs. That's actually a real issue to both concessions and to online retailers. You need to be efficient and really accurate. And wouldn't it be great if we could have channel filters that are set up where future products that are added into those channels follow the same rules that you've put in at the template level, and they inherit those automatically. Even the translation, the excluded colors, data formats that the channel needs, it saves huge amounts of time, and it results in accurate product ranges by channel. It's in one central system, and it removes all of the complex spreadsheets. Our clients tell us that the role that the people perform in there really isn't stimulating. Within 6 months, some are progressing onto other roles. Others are slightly disillusioned after the initial excitement of joining a head office retail role. So there's a high turnover of staff. It means there's more recruitment costs, there's retraining. With a time-consuming and detailed job like this, producing repetitive sets of information for each channel is really key, and it's completely reliant on your accuracy. It's costly to the retailer to be able to do it, and if you're manual, you're slowing the process that can result in a missed window of opportunity or hitting a market trend such as the Be Kind t-shirts or the rainbow phase that we went through. So, and I fear I'm being slightly boring here, but you just can't create that dynamic content experience with a spreadsheet. So how does the ROI come in? Well, if you remember the key areas that we discussed earlier that are all of the consideration areas, if you align all of those challenges that Omio PIM can tackle and all of the improvements that it can bring, along with the improvements and opportunities to increase revenue, it starts to stack up to be a really compelling and relevant solution. It increases opportunity and revenue and decreases huge amounts of workload and risk. And I imagine that you're probably interested in knowing how you could calculate your own savings within your own business. And, you know, they'll be unique to each business. So I'm really pleased to say that we provide a tool on our website that allows you to enter some basic information where you can put your own key data in, and you can discover what benefits that will bring to your organisation. But before I lose your attention whilst you will dive off into our website calculator, I'd just like to take a moment to recap. The benefits that PIM can bring is increased turnover, because by quickly making product available to different markets means you get your product out quicker. It pushes products to the right market at the right time, and it results in fewer markdowns and returns because the information that you're providing is key and it's accurate. It reduces the costs through collaboration, and it reduces the reduction of mistakes that are created in data. You're able to optimize headcount, and we know from areas where we've implemented, they're able to reduce headcount by at least 30%, or it enables you to grow, but still have the headcount that you have without adding to the numbers. Enabling a retailer that can quickly test a market with little investment, no longer bricks and mortar, to be able to see whether a market is working for them. You're able to do digitally, and you're able to do it really quickly. And you can create information-rich products which are agile, which means that maintaining them and that maintaining process becomes really quick and agile. Product ranges that can be uniquely tailored to each digital market, however complex, can be done really quickly and accurately. And all of that without the multiple spreadsheets that are error-ridden and have to be controlled through manual process. It's an innovative tool, it's a central solution, it supports collaborative working, and it creates dynamic content. We ensure that accurate and validated data provides the translation capability, so you can react quickly to the markets and the business initiatives that will come up that would normally take you months to plan. And finally, Providing unique product experience with global language capabilities helps you to reach richer, wider new markets fast. It means that there's no longer limits to where you can trade, where you may have been held back before. So I'd like to thank you for your attention. I hope you found the points that both Eddie and I have raised really interesting and provides you with some food for thought. Happy to join up now with Eddie to see, we'll take some of the questions actually that I can start to see that have come in. Let me end my sharing and then we can come back to full screen for you.
Lisa, that's fantastic. Thank you so much. And excuse me, I did forget to mention on the right-hand side of your screen, there is a panel for asking questions. I see some of you have found it. We've got a few that have come through. But do please pop any questions into the question panel that you might have for us. I'll pick off a couple from the handful that we've had already. Lisa, I think this one is for you. Yes. So you talk about good collaboration through the PIM system.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
How does that collaboration actually work?
Right. Let me move my screen so I'm actually looking at you. That's better. So right. So team collaboration it's the foundation. It's built through workflow. That workflow can be built completely independently for each retailer. They'll always have slightly different varying workflow practices. It's built on dashboards. So dashboards and workflow means that it's clear when a task is dropped into your queue using the user alerts that you have something to do. You do it. It moves automatically onto somebody else's queue. And that's visual from a user dashboard. It's also visual from a department level dashboard and a company level dashboard. So all of those things mean that, you know, a product can't disappear. And we know that, you know, there's always people asking, you know, where are we with the product? Where, you know, when is it going to get online? Now you're able to see that really clearly and really visibly. So it takes all of that complex process out and makes it very clear with clear, dynamic, graphical user interfaces.
That's fantastic. Thank you. Thanks for this question. This seems to be one for us. So I touched on social proof. How would different teams even be interested in this? We're looking at this now, but it's being managed by our ecom team. Mm-hmm. Yeah, you know, we do see that social proof, and for people that may not be familiar with that, you know, you often see this sort of social proof widget. So many people are looking at a product now. So many people have bought this product in the last few days, and absolutely that type of functionality is typically implemented by someone in the technical e-commerce team. Mm-hmm. So what's that got to do with collaboration with anyone else? It's a really good question. Well, that kind of social proof, it can work positively and it can also work negatively. And if we think about like a high value once in a lifetime product that's got a really long consideration stage, if someone's coming through to a website and looking at that particular product initially, and we're saying the stock's low and 50 people are looking at it now, then that consumer is very, very likely to think it's not even going to be around when they're ready to make a transaction. And so in terms of collaboration, if we can really understand the customer journey and the stages that that consumer is at, then that kind of social proof can be targeted really effectively. For example, you know, if somebody is at the later stage of the process, we can really increase that kind of activity to drive the conversion. At the beginning of the process, it's got less value. And actually, even with merchandising, you know, it's another way of actually elevating a product with this type of product labeling. If you really want to draw attention to a particular product that you might have a lot of stock sitting on the shelves, then actually using that kind of social proof in conjunction with elevation on a PLP or at a product recommendation can be really, really effective. So hopefully that answers your question.
Yeah. Okay, I think there's one here for me about how automatic translation works. So yeah, great question. And I know that there can be some controversy around this. How we do it is we allow key fields to be translated. So at channel level or at country level, so channels can sit underneath countries in a hierarchy system. We allow key fields such as color, size, whatever attributes you have, and there's 10,000 attributes, so I'm pretty sure you're never going to run out of those. Season, brand, etc. We're able to convert those at a higher level. So when it hits that country or that channel, you don't have to keep translating it. Particularly, that's something that comes up a lot with sizes. So, you know, UK to EU, and also colours. So it might be that your channel uses umbrella colours and you're using black. So you might actually use black and they use BLK, or you might use black, and then that needs to be translated into noir. Which is probably about the extent of my French, but you can set those things because you know that there isn't any local linguistics that need to be addressed. Local linguistics is different. That means that the description of the item may need to be done in a slightly different way, and that we leave open to each retailer, so they can make sure that they are key to addressing the market that they're selling in, and that the context of the description is completely right.
That's fantastic. Thank you. I think we've got time for one more quick question. There's one here. Oh, I think either of us could hit on this one. It's fairly topical considering we've just gone down into lockdown again. Any suggestions for quick wins in the current COVID scenario?
You need to buy an Omeo PIM. You need a product experience. You need to get it out there now.
Yeah, I mean, this one, it's an interesting one, isn't it? I mean, it's I didn't think we were going to be in lockdown again like this. And I know this question's been answered a number of times. We're in lockdown just ahead of Christmas. All of these websites, your websites, they're going to be getting a whole load more traffic than usual, lots more brand new customers, maybe people that have never even transacted online before, like my mum. So what are we going to do? You know, I mean, well, you know, the content needs to be kept refreshed. We need to go big on data acquisition, you know, along those lines. You know, I think, and again, thinking collaboratively about this, the definition of retention kind of needs to change, become a little bit more short term. Yeah. You know, how many of those new customers that you're going to pick up over this festive period are you going to be able to hang on to? You know, set some objectives around those, about driving the second or third transaction in a short period of time.
I think actually, in all seriousness, I would look at how your product is presented online. If you're able to make quick changes to the presentation of the data, then do it. Those two examples are live now examples on websites. There's a real difference between putting basic data on a screen that makes it a transaction to providing the experience, because it's, you know, it demonstrates all of these things. I mean, you know, there's websites I've gone to that have said, oh, it feels like modern cotton. What is modern cotton? You know, is that soft jersey? Do you know, feel warm and cozy in it? You've got to use far more descriptive language to be able to provide an experience. And if you're able to do that really quickly in the next few days and focus on that, I think that will really help drive Five sales up. That's all going to be manual, because, you know, that process is, but, you know, if you then look to put in systems and processes that can, you know, support your growth in the market and make your teams more efficient, then, you know, that's really the thing that you should be doing.
That's great. Well, look, Lisa, thanks ever so much. And we've just gone over the hour now. So just to wrap up, I just wish to say again, thanks ever so much for everyone who's joined this session today. I hope you found that really, really useful. And Lisa, thanks ever so much for joining us and for your presentation. That was absolutely fantastic.
Brilliant.
please feel free to reach out to either of us directly with any further questions. But thanks again. Thank you very much.